Training donkeys is a marathon, not a sprint. You've probably heard that before, but here's the thing. Most of the time, this donkey training marathon feels like you're just running around in circles while your donkey is pointing and laughing at you, and that's not very fun. You know, the crazy thing about donkeys is most donkey owners quit just before they're about to experience some sort of success. So if you've ever thought to yourself, I can't do this anymore, congratulations, you're closer than you might think. And that's because donkey gentling and training success, it's all about playing the long game. The rewards can be huge, but they don't come quickly or easily for most donkey owners. Now, we don't expect to get a fancy meal from throwing a TV dinner in the microwave, but here's the thing. You don't have to be the fastest, smartest, most creative, or best trainer of all time. You just need to be consistent with large dollops of your own stubbornness. So today we're going to talk about something called compound interest with your donkey training. Donkey compound interest is all about how treating your donkey as a long-term investment rather than a vending machine will lead you to eventual success. And fear not, I'll give you some practical tips with reality checks to keep your mind motivated when it feels like your donkey is just cold stone, just serving you up crickets. But first of all, let's tackle this question. Why do so many donkey owners quit before they enjoy any form of success? Is it bad training or a bad donkey? Maybe it's just bad patience. The unfortunate truth is that most donkey owners have unrealistic expectations of their donkey's success. They feel like it should happen a lot more quickly than it does because they see a horse and think it looks easy, especially with how really they're pretty much the same. They have 4 legs, they have ears, the donkeys are just longer, right? Now, although a donkey is still part of the equine species, they are different with the way they think and how much time they need to process information. So maybe you've seen another donkey doing amazing things, or you wish your donkey could do some of the things that you see somebody else's donkey doing. You don't often see the days, months, and years of effort that went into overnight success. And remember, you mostly only ever see the most successful donkeys in videos without all of the training that went into it. I found a report that showed that there's over 6 million horses in the U.S. and over 300,000 mules and donkeys. That's a vast difference. And remember that 300,000 showed mules and donkeys, so the donkeys are even less than that. Informational videos about training donkeys is pretty slim, but with time and patience, your donkeys will transform when they're taught things in small steps. Think of when a baby is learning to eat from a spoon. When they're not interested in another bite, they turn their head away from you. Donkeys are similar with having to be creative with encouraging them to try something new. Think of when you would encourage a baby to try another bite, and maybe you would put that spoon kind of up higher in the air and pretend that the airplane is coming to land into their mouth. Now, this is kind of similar with donkeys. We need to encourage them to try something new. So for a baby, it's taking another bite, but for a donkey, especially if you're working with a nervous or wild donkey, it's just, will you trust me? Donkey owners that stick to training their donkeys through encouragement and breaking training down into baby steps tend to be the owners that can enjoy willing partnership that you create with your own donkey. Your donkey doesn't care about expensive gear or incredible charisma. That all helps, but it usually comes down to one trait. Successful donkey owners, when they weren't successful with their donkey, showed up to train anyway, long after everybody else thinks about quitting. When I got my first donkey, Seamus, I was afraid to even try to train him. I had heard so many things that were negative about donkeys, about how they would just wait and kick you if they didn't like you, that you can't force them to do anything. And most of all, you can never, ever firm up with them. These are some of the stereotypes that I had heard about training donkeys, which when I ended up with my first donkey, I was nervous to even try. But if you're going to work with donkeys, you have to at least be willing to try, to be patient, and to even make mistakes and be willing to be humbled. When I started out with Seamus, my first donkey, my goal was just to get him to walk. Each time I asked. Later, though, I was able to get him to pick up his feed and load into the trailer. These were all obstacles when I started out. Now, Seamus has rode in multiple parades. He's gone to Arizona for a wintertime riding trip. I wasn't sure how he would do because I've also heard the stereotype that when they get tired, they'll just stop and refuse to go. It doesn't matter where you're at. Later on, I'll have to make another video about that. He has packed on hunting trips with me, played gymkhana games, along with many other things. If I can do this, so can you. So each day, stick at it. Keep trying. I have many videos to help you along your journey. You can learn from my mistakes, and trust me, I've made a lot of them. So hopefully you don't have to make as many as I have. So let's think of your donkey as a savings account. The more you invest, the bigger your payout will be. It doesn't happen overnight. Every training session is like a small deposit into your donkey's bank account. But at first, you won't experience much growth when you first start. Many people will think that they're not making any progress from day to day. But if you keep building on your relationship with your donkey, asking them questions that they can say yes to, your donkey will really begin to trust you. This is when the momentum of what your donkey is willing to do with or for you is really going to grow. Now, if you're working with a nervous or a wild donkey, you may feel like you're making zero progress, like the movie 50 First Dates. The tipping point to break through this point is to focus on what your donkey can and is willing to say yes to, and then adding in a little harder question, breaking everything down into baby steps. There will be days that you go out for training and your donkey acts offended. This will tell you your questions yesterday were too hard. That's okay when this happens, guys. Just go back to what they're willing to say yes to. We're all going to make mistakes, and sometimes we don't know until they tell us. So think about how to break your questions into smaller parts. You want them to walk with you or pick up their feet. How can we break this into baby steps? Now think of a baby when they're born. First, they have to learn to hold up their head. Eventually, they're learning to roll over and sit up, and then to crawl and so on. Training donkeys is similar to this process. When your donkeys trust and can say yes to the questions, they will be willing to trust and try to answer more of your questions. This is when training will start to go faster. Donkeys remember what worked well and what brought them comfort, and will keep trying to do more things that will bring them comfort. What you've been watching me do with Cisco here is work on just touching his forehead. And as you can see, when I first started, he wasn't so interested. But after this training session, when we were down there later on, all of a sudden we can scratch and rub on his forehead. So remember, these little tiny successes will build, and all of a sudden your donkey will be like, oh, I don't even know what I was afraid of. Thank you for watching, guys, and I hope you have a super wonderful day. Remember, I have many playlists, and I am getting really close to 6,000 subscribers right now. I sure would love it if you found value with this video, that you hit that like and subscribe button. Maybe share with a friend that you think might appreciate the video also. Now, what I've been doing again in this video is target training. So if you're working on target training to get their forehead touched or any other body part, especially with their forehead here, don't reach down and touch them. Wait for them to come investigate you. And this will happen, their natural curiosity. You're going to have to wait for some time, but it's worth it, guys. When I was doing this was the first times that we touched his forehead, or that I touched his forehead. And then just yesterday when I was down at the barn, my husband was like, oh, have you ever touched his forehead? And he just started scratching it. Cisco did not care at all. These baby steps, the baby steps really, really do work. So stick to it. Be patient. Enjoy them. Enjoy all the small wins that you get with your donkeys. Keep in mind, we're always going to reward the try. The very first touch that I had with his forehead, I counted it and paid him, even though I just barely got a touch of like a piece of fur. It wasn't, onto his forehead where I could have scratched him. It was just him touching his forehead with his fur to my hand. And from there, I paid him, and we built on that as a baby step.